One of the things that happened with the advancement of technology is that people's sense of time changed. And everybody wants immediate results now, don't they? They want the one thing whereby they can have split-second enlightenment. And it doesn't work that way. What you will do, you see, the breath is like a mirror. It reflects your inner states. When you learn to pay attention to the quality of the breath, you will see your stresses reflected to you. I had, this was years ago now, but Kathlyn was living in Denver, and we offered a meditation class. And anyway, it was new for some people, and they came in, and anyway, there was a young man there whose breathing was very heavy and labored. And I just went over and sat by him and put my hand on his back. And I said, he didn't know anyone there. He just kind of wandered in. And I said, you have a heavy heart. And he said, how do you know? I said, I can tell by your breath. The breath will tell you everything. And so we don't really stop with saying, is this enough? Or is that enough? Because the more you move forward, I mean, is enlightenment enough? Some will say, no, there's still ascension. I mean, this is kind of what has happened with the warping of divine consciousness. And it's been particularly present in the last 100 years here on planet Earth. And I think it coincides exactly with the technological revolution. I'm not saying technology is bad. I think it can be used to ease the burdens of humanity in a tremendous way. But we have to get beyond the place where the people that are bringing the technology out are just wanting more money, more power, more whatever. And so you start that with yourself. And yes, that's good. You can see the oppressor inside, because that's the only oppressor you can cure. You can't take on a dictator individually. Perhaps there is a force of multiple humans that can do it. But to just go against force with more force is just more of the same, isn't it? And this is what makes the non-violent resistance so powerful. Gandhi sort of started it for everyone. But I can tell you, the civil rights leaders of the United States were very influenced by Gandhi. And it was seeing his example of taking the higher road, the higher moral road, just not giving back hate when hate has been received. As you do that, the inner oppressor becomes quiet. And the inner oppressed becomes empowered. And so, while I don't want to say that maybe it is enough. You know, the Buddha only taught one form of meditation, and that was what he called breath awareness. That's it. Monks, when you meditate, first sit and be mindful. He didn't say be mindful of this or mindful of that. He said just be mindful. And that's what he was talking about, is what I've referred to in my teachings as open awareness. You have to be aware that you are aware. And there's something really powerful that happens when you let that in. I am aware. But where do I go to sleep? Where do I serve myself? Where do I check out from whatever role I said I would do this time? Now, I know most people don't have a list of things they decided they were going to do when they took this incarnation. It wouldn't work anyway, because at the time you came in, the needs of the world were quite different probably than they are right now, you see? But you have to begin somewhere. And the Buddha said, and Buddha's not the only one that said things like this, but he had these pithy little ways of saying things that catch people's attention even today. He said, monks, put your mind on the breath and follow that breath all the way to your enlightenment. because he knew that's how he did it, you see. He saw everything inside of him through learning to establish breath awareness. And he didn't even really have, nor was he attached to any of the dogma of the day. He kind of threw it all off. I mean, he was a real individualist, those of you who want to be individualists, not that he considered himself that. He just knew he had to find truth. He wasn't trying to become enlightened. That term came years later. He was looking for truth. And I can tell you, the oppressor, whether inwardly or outwardly functioning, is not the truth. The oppressed, either inwardly or outwardly, is not the truth. And this is where it gets very interesting, because in the US, there's this big movement about sovereignty, and people want their spiritual sovereignty. And I never understood that. It doesn't make any sense to me, but people talk about it anyway. And I think what they really are saying is they want the right to be self-determining. And I wouldn't argue with that at all. That's huge. But then be self-determining. Don't just try to stand out in the crowd, or don't just go against this stream or against that stream of thought or activity. Look for truth. And you will be amazed how much truth you will tap by being utterly aware of your breath. See, the Buddha said, people say, well, I can't be aware of my breath all day long. Well, he thought you could. And that's what he told his monks. And funniest thing, they demonstrated that they too could be aware of their breath through everything else. Now, of course, we expand upon the practice as we get into it, but to begin with, where is your breath? Notice when you hear a piece of bad news and you hold it suddenly. What does that tell you? Is it engaging some more primitive instinct that you don't really need, that calls you from your highest level, that calls you from your liberated essence? Just notice. But the breath will take you there if you just allow it to do so. You see? I suppose that sounds like a broken record to some of you, because you see, people want some big, beautiful, phenomenal practice that only they can do. Let that in. You've probably all had those moments. And they miss the one that's right literally under their nose. Breath awareness is the quickest path to enlightenment. But you see, the breath is undervalued because it's so common. Everybody breathes. This doesn't make me special. Are we engaging a primitive level there? So we just have to ask the question. But the breath is not only enlightening, it is healing. And when you learn to look into it as a mirror, you see not only the problematic areas that you need to heal, but you see those places where you already are a Buddha, or it doesn't have to be a Buddha, an evolved being, a greatly evolved being. You come to touch that part of you that is eternal. See, most people just face it as a concept. Oh, yeah, I know I was around when the universe was formed. But they really can't grasp any way of being other than being human. And indeed, all your experiences point to that. But there is another reality that was there before you became human. It was in place before you even thought of separating yourself from the consciousness that is the universe, you see? And we've done some convocations where we just worked on this the whole time. What is that? There's the body of breath, and the body of breath affects the body of blood and tissue and bone and flesh, all of that. How does the body of breath work on the body of flesh? What is the total body experience of breathing? That's the next step. Once breath awareness is established, then we bring in the body. And what you begin to see is that everything that's out there in the world has a reflection inside. To the same degree, not necessarily, no. But, there's the old adage that everyone used to memorize, as above, so below, as above, so below. True in one sense. But there's another one that you need to be thinking about now as we enter this new age. As within, so without. In other words, when you can stabilize inner peace, you allow it to flow out. You can't make the world be peaceful, but what you can do, and I've said this to so many of you in your personal sessions or even in workshops, you will see a peaceful world when you can project a peaceful world. But if you're projecting onto all the negative qualities of the 1%, or some of the 1% project a lot of negative qualities on the lower levels. You could say the 98% or the 99%, but it goes lower than that. There are those who are wealthy who don't care if people are starving. Now, to me, that's pretty much a survival technique, isn't it? Or a tactic. I need more, so I don't care if I take it from people who have nothing. Now, even that can be the source of spiritual realization. So we have to be careful. Don't line things up as good over here, bad over there. Just as Diana got that beautiful story, just try to see what is. If you can see what is, you're much better off than trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong, because it takes you out of the present moment. And then you're not in contact with your breath. You see? You will come to a place where basically breathing, just sitting and breathing, is comfortable. No, it's soothing. One feels secure and utterly at peace. If the breath is not at peace, the person cannot be at peace. And, but they say, period. In other words, the sentence doesn't need to be any longer than that. The breath will see you through all these difficult times if you will just let it be your teacher. Just let it be, may I say, your guide. And then don't do the things that the ego wants to do, like, oh, my breath is special. Or, maybe I'm breathing with some great being. Well, that's okay. But that's not what it's about, because you're focusing on the great being rather than on the breath. And I think right now, the world needs all of you to really deepen into the mastery of breath awareness. And I don't get anything out of it. It's not that I'm asking you to do this for me. I want you to do it for you. Because after all, you have all said you want to go free. You want to experience moksha, liberation. And this is the quickest way to get there, you see? So know this. I love you. I bless you. And I call you forth to be who you truly are. To step outside of the egoic parameters of those primitive drivers. That's not who you are. Yes, you may feel them from time to time, but that's not who you are. You are a being, a divine being, a being of light, of infinite consciousness. And many of you tell me, well, I guess I don't know if I am or not, but I don't experience it. And you're just willing to write the whole thing off rather than going into it and saying, well, what if that's right? What if Master's telling me the truth here? What if I can actualize my own realization? You can. You can learn to be what you were meant to be, which is a being of great knowledge, of course, great wisdom, but a being of infinite love, infinite compassion, and infinite awareness. I can tell you, and I will. I will keep telling you until you begin to see it yourself. That's who you are. The rest is all illusion. I know it's very compelling. And when those desires and aversions come up, they're very compelling. You think you have to have this or you have to not have that. Would infinite consciousness have to have something here on this physical little planet? Maybe it's acceptance, maybe it's recognition, maybe it's wealth. I have to have that. Infinite consciousness is already rich and it doesn't even have $1. So you see, your work is with the mind to step out of the field of those primitive drivers and discover your true nature. I know you will never regret having done it. But this is a little push, right? We're coming through this Bardo time. Get ready for a new age. It's going to be chaotic because there is so much extremism coming forth now in this Bardo experience, and people mistake it for real. The Bardo of all things is not real. It is really experienced, but it's not real. Your true nature is real, and you must discover it. You must discover it. So know that I love you and I bless you, and I'm calling you to be those individuals who will discover a new form or type of human being, one that is more aligned with the cosmos and its opening and playing out, one that is more aligned with your true nature and not all the illusions you've collected in this your life stream. They're there and they're compelling, but they should be things that you say, oh, that's interesting. So how is it I came to believe or see myself as an oppressed person? How is it I came to see myself as powerful enough to want something from myself and maybe take it from someone else? And maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it's just you stole somebody else's moment of attention. You see, that happens all the time, doesn't it? Ego bumps up and says, what about me? You're paying all this attention to that person. What about me? And that's a type of stealing. And so just see it for what it is. You don't have to go into shame or guilt or anything like that. Just see it for what it is and reaffirm, I am not an oppressor and I am not oppressed. I am a being of light. And what force or factor on this tiny little planet can manipulate this force of life, that's life and light that's coming through me? Divine awareness. I call you to that. It is your true nature. And all of the rest of it is just illusion. So I guess we could close by my saying, happy illusion cracking. Go be who you really are, not who you have believed yourself to be. That's so transient, isn't it? We understand how that happens because there are these primitive urges that humanity blindly follows at an unconscious level. But I'm asking you to make it all conscious. Notice when fear triggers you and just don't cave into it. Notice when selfishness arises. Oh, that'll be hard for some of you because you see, all spiritual aspirants want to think they're not selfish. Want to believe they're bodhisattvas. And indeed, that's where you're trying to get to, yes. So affirm that you're a bodhisattva and then go live as if you are. You see? I love you. I see who you are. And I invite you to see who you are.